This week's certification of results may not be the end of Georgia's election, with a recount anticipated and Georgia taxpayers paying the mounting bill. The Secretary of State's office said today they do not know how much a recount would cost, but hope common sense will prevail after their audit in the presidential election. There's no estimate yet on the cost of the audit. Recounts in Georgia are done by machine, which requires fewer people.
The biggest cost is going to be the labor cost, and that we know that. So we're trying to figure out how can we best deploy our dollars, especially to those counties that have specific resourcing issues, which are the smaller and medium-sized counties. We love all the counties equally, but there are some counties in more need than others. We did take into account that when we merged the December election and the January election, that was going to free up resources for those counties that can use for this process and potentially for the recount process if that becomes necessary.
Unlike the audit, a recount and the costs associated with it could be avoided. Georgia state law mandates an audit of a single race after every election. The state has discretion which race to choose. The audit had to be a hand retally of every vote in the presidential race because of the small margin and the contested results. Once the results are certified, the losing candidate then has 2 business days to request a recount if the results are within 0.5%. The Secretary of State's office does not expect vote totals of a recount to be much different from the hand tally. Georgia's 16 electoral votes would not change who wins the presidency.